right, welcome into another episode of Beers by Ivy. Beers by Ivy, presented by Joey Scott Media. I'm Joey Scott, and this is my sports podcast. Jumping right back into the NFL draft. We did Drake May yesterday. Now we're focusing on Caleb Williams. A lot to like there, a lot to like, a little bit of things to dislike too. So I'm going to walk through them all. But, I think, Beers by Ivy, we're essentially a fun podcast. This isn't going to be knocking down anyone. This is essentially calling out, hey, here's where I think your career is going to go. Here's the things to look out for. X, Y, Z. Go have an awesome life, right? We're not supposed to be knocking down 21, 22-year-olds telling them what they should achieve or what they're going to achieve in life. Okay? That being said, let's do some football analysis. Here's what my eyes have told me. I've also heard what other people said, and essentially a lot of the most people have the exact same view, which is makes him understandably the number one pick in this year's draft. But I put incredible on the run thrower. Does not miss throws. The ability to be a passer, but also a thrower. What I mean by that is he can essentially throw you a pass that's easy to catch, and then you can move down the field, has touch, and you can also just throw a laser rocket down the seam or down the sideline. He has both speeds. Perfect athleticism for a quarterback. Okay, what I mean by that is he's not a running quarterback, but he has a little bit better than Patrick Mahomes' ability to move, and he's going to be the perfect ideal scrambler in the National Football League. Okay, this is huge. Pocket awareness. And this is twofold, okay? The ability to see the rush and see downfield. The only person who has that in the National Football League right now is Patrick Mahomes. Okay, that is like unheard of. It's almost like he catches the ball, looks downfield, looks around, looks back downfield, and is just so comfortable with his knowledge of football and his mind processing speed that he's essentially processing two levels of the game at once. If he can do that at the next level, watch out. Also, I put in the similar note, pocket patience. It's like these are what the best quarterbacks have, and this is what all the best people in sports have. It's that time's like slow, and they just settle, open, throw. It's like Michael Jordan standing back with the ball, waiting for the perfect moment to do the spin, turn around, fadeaway jumper. Right? Most people in sports have this like freak out mode where they go now. And to have that brief second of patience. In the sport of hockey, this is deadly important. This is what makes a great passer of the hockey puck. It's the extra millisecond of hold to allow for the space to increase. Caleb Williams does that incredibly well. Okay. Other thing I wrote was just his eyes. Reading progressions. It kind of is all the same thing. But essentially his mind and processing speed through his eyes is remarkably impressive. Okay? The notion that he's reckless, I think, is almost laughable. Okay? He had one bad game against Notre Dame, a few average games, but definitely one bad game against Notre Dame. In 2 years, had 72 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions, and 3 of those interceptions came in one game. Okay? He essentially had almost very few pros even on his team, versus most of these kids have gotten drafted over the last few years in the top, rounds of top, couple picks of the draft are coming out with like 5 guys drafted out of their class alone into the National Football League. And he's essentially only going to have a few after a couple years at USC. So I think essentially he's been making plays that are essentially a little bit of extra that he wouldn't make if there was more talent around him and he knew that just playing winning football all the time leads to the wins on the schedule. Okay. Let's talk about a few things I just don't like. And what's funny is I think he has one of the most mature personalities coming out in the draft. What I mean by that, he's like NFL media ready based on all the things he's been through to lead a team from a media and answering questions standpoint. He actually talks versus some of these other kids are just giving you the classic, what they're going to say prior to them saying anything. So from that standpoint, I just think there's two things that bug me from a leadership standpoint. And once again, quarterback is not about, it's a role. It has a leadership in it. It's so different than almost any position in sports, because if you're not a leader at the quarterback position, then I promise you, your team will not win, because that position is a drill sergeant commander where you are the chess player on the chessboard. There's two things. One, he's got this like look at me weird thing. That's not in leadership. Leadership is a non-negotiable thing in life. It's in the fabric of space-time. It's like Bob Dylan, blowing in the wind. Okay? So this whole look at me type thing, some of these off the field extra things he does, is alarming to me. Like, people who are successful leaders don't do that kind of thing. They essentially know that they are a big deal. They know they're a leader, but they just act like a normal person and do honestly the opposite, where they just try to fit in with the crowd. You know, it's like Peyton Manning going to get beers with his linemen, right? It's the you know, just being a normal person, introducing, hi, I'm Tom. Yeah, everyone knows you're Tom Brady. You know, it's like these simple things. Like, that's what leadership at the base level, that's what leaders do at the base level of really who they are. Next thing, crying on the football field. And I know you could say, oh, Joey, like, why is this a big deal? Passion. No. Being a quarterback requires leadership, okay? When you're the leader of a team, you are on the clock from when you get into the building, when you get out of the building, okay? Stopping and having some personal moment is not what a leader would do. A leader would essentially look around the room and look for fallen soldiers and bring them up. And then if you want to get back to your hotel or back to your apartment or your house or whatever, then you can have a moment where you're like, you know, you can have an intense moment with yourself. But the idea that you're going to go to the National Football League and have this look at me type behavior is just, it's just a joke. Like, there's just no effing chance that men with 3 children at 29, 31, 32 years old are going to be listening to some kid who has some look at me personality trait. And if you look at any of the sports people that have had some of this look at me stuff, they weren't the leaders of their team. They were like side men or even third men that essentially had personality, and then they were loved because of that personality. But the leaders of any team are very straightforward people that work extremely hard, are intense, high standards, but at the end of the day, they live that role of helping build others and keeping others to that standard with themselves, right? I keep thinking of Michael Jordan, but it's the same thing with you know, Peyton Manning. Any of the guys, right? It's literally any of the guys. It, once again, is a fabric in space-time of what leadership is. At the end of the day, you have to be more selfless than anyone else on your team to be the leader of that team. So that's why in those moments where you see these like weird look at me type things, I always question, I'm like, what's going on there? Because it doesn't add up to me. Okay, so my only advice, or my only thing, I would be study leadership so intensely and literally get the best leaders in the world and talk to them on a monthly basis and start gaining your knowledge. That would be like my advice if I was speaking to Caleb Williams. Other than that, man, I think your floor is Kyler Murray, and I think your ceiling is literally competing with Patrick Mahomes. And once again, I feel like Kyler Murray kind of has this weird leadership thing about him. Not look at me, but just like a weird, self-centered, selfish kind of weirdness to him. And then Patrick Mahomes doesn't have any of that. He's like way closer to he's like a fun version of Tom Brady. I mean, you know, like, so, and I think that's the main reason why he's successful. Yeah, he has the talent, but once again, there's the personality and the connecting with people and teammates and driving. But then once again, it's low as Kyler Murray and high as Patrick Mahomes. So then when I'm skipping to where like landing spots and fit, I think the Bears should definitely pick him. But I think the Bears should understand that like the number one thing we need to do to support this kid is put him around really great people and veteran presences. I think that can help. Don't let this kid run the show because he's not, in my opinion, truly ready to handle the leadership of men. But if you can put really strong, well-respected men around him, which is pretty much what the Bears have done with some of these, getting receivers and linemen recently, then I think it'll be a good fit. And I think he will have a successful career. But at the end of the day, Caleb Williams is going to come down to you for your own career, which I think is a great spot. I think it's a great thing. I mean, literally from a quarterback standpoint, I can't even see a single negative thing. And it's just confusing because once again, I see incredible ability to answer questions and interview and your actual personalities with you, but then I also see some weirdness when it comes to leadership. So you clean that up, you can pretty much have an opportunity to have a Hall of Fame career based on just your talent alone. And then if you essentially become a leader, then I think you're winning Super Bowls. All right, that's my take. I'm going to have a lot more draft coverage coming up. I want to essentially do what I would do if I was each team. I think that'll be a fun video, but like and subscribe. Just getting going here, Bears by Ivy, trying to bring some of the best sports commentary on the internet. We really just focus on the life lessons of sports because that's what I miss about sports. We try not to focus on idol worship in any way. We just really want to, focus on the life lessons of sports. Just keeping it simple. All right. Thanks. So like and subscribe. We'll talk soon.